حول وجود احتمال وجود نفط في منطقة كركوك.
It's most important that we should have a belt of English-controlled country between the Sharif of Mecca and the French in Syria.
Where do you leave the French?
I should like to draw a line from the Ian Acre to the last K in Kirkuk.
And this must all be settled before we can take military action against the Turks in Syria. We must find out what the French actually insist upon having. They demand the whole of Syria.
It cannot be merely a military proposition.
We must make terms with France, which means we must make terms diplomatically.
Quite so.
Britain had identified the territories of the Ottoman Empire it wanted in order to protect its interests in the Suez Canal and the Arab provinces. But this plan was dependent on Britain and France winning the war, which at the start of 1915 was almost at a standstill on the Western Front in Europe. The Allies decided to open an Eastern Front against the Ottomans. The ill-fated Gallipoli campaign ran between April 1915 and January 1916. When it finally failed, the Allies, including Australians and New Zealanders, suffered a major setback. This monument commemorates the Ottoman victory in which around 80,000 Allied troops were killed. This defeat at Gallipoli and later in Kut in Mesopotamia caused the British to enter into more secret deals over the Middle East. Coming up, how the British conspired with Sharif Hussein of Mecca to strike back at the Ottomans through an Arab revolt.
The British looked on the Sharifs of Mecca as the partners that were essential in the propaganda war with the Ottomans to demonstrate that the Muslim world was better off on the Allied side than fighting with the Ottomans.
Let me explain why we must have...
And Sykes and SykesPicot negotiate face-to-face to get what they both want from the Middle East.
Well, if we cannot have Palestine, my government will certainly not allow Britain to control it.
And my government would take the same view. French Palestine would be an outrage.
Well, then we need to find another solution before we come to blows.
And so, now we can draw a map. We must retain full control.
In late 1915, early 1916, both Britain and France were exercised by how they might divide up the ailing Ottoman Empire between them, should the Allies ultimately win the First World War. But when they suffered a serious defeat at Gallipoli, Britain looked at alternative ways of attacking the Ottomans and undermining their support for Germany.
That now the Ottomans, on a victory roll, might be able to provoke uprisings in the Indian and Egyptian Muslim populations that so far they'd not been able to affect. It's at that point that Britain begins to really consider how it might turn the tables on the Ottomans and force them to fight in their own territory against an internal uprising. So, to address that challenge, they turned to the Sharifs of Mecca, who had already made overtures to the British about concluding an alliance to secure their position. Now, all of a sudden, the British looked on the Sharifs of Mecca as the partners that were essential in the propaganda war with the Ottomans to demonstrate that the Muslim world was better off on the Allied side than fighting with the Ottomans.
In 1908, the Ottomans had appointed Sharif Hussein bin Ali as the Wali, the governor of Hijaz, the area towards the Red Sea. He was from the Hashemite dynasty in Mecca, of which he was the emir. His sons Faisal and Abdullah were representatives in the Ottoman parliament, but his relationship with Istanbul had deteriorated in recent years.
بدأت أعتقد مشكلة الشريف حسين قبل الحرب العالمية الأولى، أنه القوة الصاعدة في إسطنبول 1908-1909 هي الاتحاد والترقي، والاتحاد والترقي هم أبناء النخبة العثمانية الحديثة، وهؤلاء لم يكن لديهم قدر كبير من الاحترام للقيادات التقليدية، قيادات مثل شريف مكة الذي تعود فكرة حكمه للحجاز إلى أنه هو وريث الأشراف اللي لهم قرون وهم أسسوا أمارة في الحجاز.
كانت الأغلبية الساحقة من النخب العربية في الولايات العربية للدولة العثمانية تسعى لحكم عثماني يعكس الديموغرافية العثمانية، أي حكم يعكس وجود العرب والأكراد وغيرهم. طبعا تغير هذا الوضع مع اندلاع الحرب لعدة أسباب، منها تصرفات الدولة العثمانية في البلاد العربية وخاصة حكم جمال باشا في سوريا، منها الحقيقة المحاولات الإنجليزية خاصة لاجتذاب العرب.
The Ottoman ruler of Greater Syria, Jamal Pasha, executed a group of Arabs in Damascus and Beirut in 1915 and 1916. They were accused of being separatists and of supporting the British and French. This hardened the determination of the Arab nationalists to separate from Ottoman rule and to create an independent Arab state.
Hussein didn't have any modern ideas of nationalism, but he wanted more autonomy under the Ottoman Empire, but it's only gradually that he was drawn into what became an Arab national movement, a full-scale revolt against the Ottomans. And this wasn't an easy decision for the Sharif of Mecca to make, because the Ottomans were fellow Muslims. And he was siding with an infidel power against fellow Sunni Muslims.
There had been conversations between the British and the Hashemites before the war. But in July 1915, Sharif Hussein wrote to the British High Commissioner in Cairo, Sir Henry McMahon. He offered his support against the Ottomans in return for British support for an independent kingdom that would include the provinces in the Arab Peninsula and be ruled by the Hashemites.
الشريف حسين بن علي ركز على ثلاثة مسائل. المسألة الأولى هي تحديد الدولة العربية بشكل كامل بأقاليمها الرئيسية الثلاث، اللي هو إقليم الجزيرة العربية، إقليم بلاد الشام، إقليم الرافدة، بلاد الرافدة. هاي الأقاليم الأساسية المكون الأساسي للدولة العربية كاملة. المسألة الثانية هي تأكيد استقلال الدولة العربية بشكلها كامل. المسألة الثالثة كما كانت في مراسلة الشريف حسين بن علي ترتيب العلاقات المستقبلية مع بريطانيا وتقديم الأفضلية لها في الشأن الاقتصادي والعسكري في المنطقة.
The correspondence continued, and McMahon wrote to Sharif Hussein on the 24th of October, 1915. He said that Britain would not guarantee support for an independent Arab kingdom with all the provinces demanded by the Hashemites. Nevertheless, the Hashemites went ahead with their revolt against the Ottomans in July 1916. But many still consider McMahon's letter controversial today because of the areas the British wanted to exclude from any future Arab kingdom.
الحقيقة الذي رآه الشريف حسين هي ترجمة رديئة جدا وركيكة جدا للأفكار التي أرسلت من لندن في اللغة الإنجليزية للقاهرة والتي ترجمت هناك عند الريزيدنسي البريطانية.